Hey everyone, this is Cyber Defenders, and we have MITRE 1110.003, an easy threat hunting lab by Cyber Defenders. So let's read the scenario while the lab initiates. Adversaries may use a single or a small list of commonly used passwords against many different accounts to attempt to acquire valid account credentials. Password spraying uses one password, for example, password 1, or a small list of commonly used passwords that may match the complexity policy of the domain. Logins are attempted with that password against many different accounts on a network to avoid account lockouts that would normally occur when brute forcing a single account with many passwords. And then they mention a list of commonly used services that we can perform this attack on, which includes SSH, Telnet, FTP, RDP, and the list goes on. Anyway, now that our lab is up and running, let's take a look at the Start Here folder. And inside the Tools folder, we have a shortcut to the Event Log Explorer. While in the Artifacts folder, we can see a dump of the Windows event logs. So, let's start with our first question. Who was the last logged in user? I went to Google and searched for Windows event logs cheat sheet, and I usually love the first one from 13 Cubed. This cheat sheet is structured with tables, presenting the relevant event log files in each table and offering descriptions of event IDs that we may need. Alright, to determine the last logged in user, we can check the first table, which highlights the security event log file, and within this table, the event ID for a successful Windows logon is mentioned. To proceed, we open our Event Log Explorer and load up the security event log file. After it's done loading, we refine our search by filtering for the event ID 4624, which is the event log for a successful Windows login, as we have already mentioned. Now, ensuring that we have sorted the entries by the most recent date, which will be done automatically if this is the first time we load this file, the top result will give us our answer. So, double-clicking the first result, and it appears that the last user who logged in was administrator. On to the second question. What is the logon type of the failed logons? Referring to our cheat sheet, the event ID 4625 represents failed logons. And when we look up this event ID in our Event Log Explorer, a significant number of results pop up. Upon checking one of these entries, we notice that the logon type for the failed attempts is 3. To double check and get a clearer view, we add an additional column to the display to show the event log's description. This reveals that each of these failed login attempts is of type 3, which aligns with what we initially thought. So let's submit that as our flag. And on to question number 3. What is the protocol the attacker tried to brute force? Observing more than 4,000 failed login attempts certainly raises alarms, pointing strongly toward the brute force attack. In order to validate this, I decided to check if all these attempts originated from the same IP. So, upon selecting a random failed attempt and extracting its IP, I applied it as a filter. And lo and behold, all 4,000 attempts were from this singular IP. Now, we still haven't answered our question. We basically need to identify the protocol through which this brute force attack was executed. And it was when I remembered that each of these failed login attempts had a logon type of 3. Turning back to our reliable cheat sheet, we noticed a summary of all logon types. And interestingly, type 3 was defined as any network logon. Some logon types, such as type 10, correspond to RDP, but there were no type 10 entries in our logs, and that left us clueless about the protocol being used. And that was when I remembered a past blog post that I had read, and it touched upon certain misunderstandings surrounding logon type 3. The blog said, contrary to common belief, many RDP logons actually fall under type 3, especially if the network level authentication feature of Windows was enabled, which is usually enabled by default. So this led us to believe that maybe, just maybe these logs might be failed RDP login attempts. Anyway, I wanted to strengthen our hypothesis, so I thought it would make more sense to analyze the event log file specific to RDP activities, which is named Microsoft Windows Terminal Services Remote Connection Manager Operational.evtx, which is basically a very long file name for that file. Anyway, I checked the event log dumps that we have and I pinpointed that file. I dropped it into our software and I started examining its contents. One thing that I noticed within this file that there was a considerable volume of event ID 261. Now, upon clicking on any of these event log entries of ID 261, they were described as listener RDP TCP received a connection. So that probably means that all these events correspond to the failed login attempts that were being brute forced. Another confirming indicator was the timing of these events, which coincided perfectly with the failed logon times in the security event logs. Thus, piecing it all together, we concluded that the protocol being brute forced was indeed the RDP protocol. As for question number 4, it says, how many users did the attacker succeed in getting their accounts? Within the RDP event logs that we are examining and using the guidance from our cheat sheet, we identified that the event ID 1149 is indicative of successful RDP logins. Now, filtering for this event ID, then adding an extra description column which contains the usernames, we could discern that out of the 7 total successful logins, 1 was a duplicate. So we eliminate that for a total of 6 accounts that were compromised. And that should be the answer that we are looking for. As for question number 5, it says, according to Microsoft, what is the description of the substatus code for event ID 4625? Recalling from our second question, event code 4625 signifies a failed login attempt. So, selecting a random entry of that event ID for closer inspection, we took note of its substatus code, which was identified as hex C00006A. A quick search on Google for this specific code provided the explanation user logon with misspelled or bad password, and this is the answer that we are looking for. On to question number 6. How long did the brute force last? With the results in front of us, our next move is to find out the time span of these attempts. So, by sorting the time column, we can easily pinpoint the oldest and the most recent timestamps of these failed attempts. Once we have these 2 timestamps, a quick subtraction using an online calculator will reveal the total duration of the attacker's activities. As for question number 7, after how long did the attacker log in to the machine again? By observing the timestamp of the last failed brute force attempt at 4 o'clock and 34 minutes and 57 seconds PM, and then looking for the subsequent successful login attempts, we'll first have to modify the event ID which we are filtering for that of a successful login attempt. We find the first one at 4 o'clock and 46 minutes and 9 seconds PM. And then we can easily calculate the difference between these 2 times as we did in the previous question, revealing an interval of about 11 minutes and 12 seconds between the last failed attempt and the next successful login. So that's our flag. Question number 8 says, what is the name of the policy used to log the account after a certain number of failed login attempts? After Googling the question, we discover that the name for the policy in question is account lockout threshold policy. But since the question specifically requires a two-word answer, we went with lockout policy as our answer, which was our flag. And by this, we reached the end of our lab walkthrough. So, thanks for watching.